to their lands, their ancestral lands, so that we can become the honorable citizens of this great world. After all the persecution, of all the suffering we have gone through, we deserve to get our own homeland. And in that text, today, we have two distinguished guests. First, Honorable Ambassador Grace Collins of Nagaland to United States. Now I request Ms. Collins to come to the mic for a few minutes. We are very short on time, so I request everybody on the precision moment, because we have to do the flag ceremonies also. Honorable Grace Collins.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start out by thanking Dr. Ajrawat, the organizer of the National Khalsa Day Parade and president of the Anti-Defamation Sikh Council for the Freedom of Khalistan, and to say how honored I am for being given the opportunity to represent both Nagas and Christians at this sacred Sikh event. And I would also like to recognize and praise my guru, Jesus Christ, who brought us together and teaches us to reach out and love our neighbors as ourselves. Dr. Ajrawat, on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of Nagaland, I would like to present you with the traditional Naga gift.
Thank you very much.
For all your hard work in spreading peace and unity throughout the regions where Sikhs live. After doing a quick study trying to prepare for this speech, I found that the Sikhs share similar values with Christians, especially the desire to proactively defend the rights of the poor and oppressed, which pretty much represents 75% of India. In the Bible, we are specifically commanded to speak out for those who cannot speak for themselves. Proverbs 31, verses 8 through 9 says, "You should defend those who cannot help themselves. Yes, speak up for the poor and the needy and see that they get justice." Instead of being party to oppressing the weak, the Sikhs on a whole have worked tirelessly in India and in the US to peacefully give those who have no voice a chance to speak. Today, by letting me speak here, in one of America's most historic symbolic freedom sites, you have furthered the Naga cause. I would like to also acknowledge Dr. Aulick of the Khalistan American Council, who has always included information on the plight of the Nagas without ever being asked to help. Since January 23, 1993, when they both joined the UNPO, the Unrepresented Peoples Organization, our two nations have gradually developed a relationship of friendship and cooperation. That relationship is strengthened daily by their common sufferings under religious persecution and cultural discrimination, which is enforced by the Indian government, military, and legislation. To date, since that formation of the Indian Union in 1947, over 600,000 Nagas and Sikhs, evenly divided, have been murdered, tortured, raped, imprisoned, falsely imprisoned, under this current democracy of the Indian Union. These losses and crimes have occurred under such unfair legislation as the Armed Forces Special Powers Act of 1958, which gives the Indian Army officers, even of the lowest rank, the right to shoot to kill on mere suspicion anybody espousing their concept of freedom, self-determination, or independence. This law allows the military to forcibly enter any house, pillage and destroy any building, and arrest anyone without warrant and no legal recourse. Amnesty International has been working to repeal this ridiculous law, but still has been unsuccessful to this day. This law, ironically, was started by the British when the British colonized India. Now, the government of India is taking the same law and oppressing the Nagas. The once colonized India has now learned to become the oppressors. Time and time again, Nagas and Sikhs have vied for their basic human rights, and they have been denied. The Nagas in particular are frustrated at their place in the Indian Union, as in 1947 they opted not to join the Indian Union by a popular vote of 99.9%. Their decision was met with force and at gunpoint to be a part of India. Even though the Nagas have been in peace talks for the last 9.5 years, that gun is still in place today, with over 250,000 Indian army militarized and occupying their land. Ultimately, what both Sikhs and Nagas have come to understand is that they cannot have freedom and the rights that they desire and deserve because the government that dominates them is one that is determined by a majority which upholds and submits itself to a belief system which drastically differs in values and principles. Because they are so outnumbered, the democratic process actually works against the Nagas and the Sikhs, allowing religious discriminatory legislation to pass, depriving them even of their right to voice their discontent. It is for all these reasons that the Nagas and the Sikhs have a legal right to self-determination and to seek their independence. The UN Charter states that all people have the right to self-determination. By the virtue of that right, all people should be able to freely determine their own political status, pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. It then specifies that the quote, the definition of a peoplehood is if a person's right to claim themselves as a nation and thus demand their right to govern themselves is determined by 7 key points. These points include a common historical tradition, racial and ethnic identity, cultural homogeneity, linguistic unity, religious or ideological affinity, territorial connection, and a common economic life. The Nagas do fulfill these 7 requirements. In fact, in addition to fulfilling the 7 points, they also have their own flag, which we'll be raising today, their own constitution, a trained voluntary military, a tax system, and a standing form of tribal government that has been inspired by Christian values. In 1872, the American Baptist missionaries came to Nagaland and became a 95% Christian nation. Today, India is violating 24 out of the 30 articles of human rights against the Naga people. Because of the Indian caste system, the Nagas cannot even hope to improve their condition, as within the Indian caste, which they do not believe in. They are labeled as untouchables, which means they are less than human without rights. My presence here today is a witness to my words, for though I may look like a Naga, I am not. I am of Korean descent and was born in New York. Due to the restricted area permit imposed on Nagas, their people are not free to leave the boundaries of their nation, which is actually a violation of Article 13 of the Declaration of Human Rights. America has often been described as a melting pot. Countless people with countless beliefs and ways of life travel here, and in the midst of multicultural blur, everybody tends to blend into one. It is one of the charms that makes America unique. In our rapidly changing technological world, India is purported as virtually the next America and has been touting itself as the world's largest democracy. Its internal actions suggest that it would also like to imitate America and assimilate all various nations within its border into one big conglomerate. The trouble is, India is not a melting pot. I'd like to suggest that through this simplistic analogy that India is more like a salad bowl. In a salad you would have a variety of vegetables, cheeses, and meats, and of course dressing, all which you can imagine have very distinct flavors, colors, and textures, and have been thrown all together. The main ingredient of any salad is lettuce, and for my purposes represents a free India. The other various ingredients each represent a separate group of people within the bowl of India. For instance, like Kashmiri Muslims could be like the carrots, the Bengals could be represented as cheese, Goa may be meat. Every culture and people group is unique and it has a distinctive taste. The Sikhs, for instance, in my mind, represents tomatoes, simply because of the fact they have a disputed reputation of either being a fruit or a vegetable. Whether, likewise, Sikhs struggle with the constant misnomer of being either coined as a Hindu or a Muslim, or a hybrid of both, which in actuality I found that they are neither. The Nagas I picture are more of a random cookie that was thrown into this salad, and clearly does not belong, as Nagas are ethnically from Mongolian descent. Interlaced in this colorful salad is a curry dressing that represents India's democracy. In curry-like fashion, the dressing or the introduction of democracy interacts with each ingredient, enhancing its flavors, thus empowering it or overpowering it, producing unexpected and sometimes volatile flavors or results. As each differing people encounters democracy, they develop their own vision based on their own religious and philosophical view of what it means to be a democracy. They desire to